50 has just leaked new footage showing Diddy looking visibly shaken behind bars, and it's spreading fast across the internet. For months, people were saying Diddy was comfortable inside, teaching business, living easy, untouched. But now, a very different story is taking shape, and it's got people talking. According to voices close to the situation, Diddy isn't just another inmate. Some believe he's a walking target. Not because of jail politics, but because of decades-old resentment tied to Tupac and Biggie. Those wounds never healed, especially in Brooklyn. One commentator bluntly said, Diddy's life could be in danger because people believe he was connected to what happened to Pac and Biggie. Whether true or not, that belief alone carries weight in the streets. Rumors don't need proof to spark retaliation. Others dismiss the fear, saying prison doesn't care about money or fame. Rich or broke, everyone gets treated the same eventually. But even critics admit high-profile inmates attract unpredictable danger. The deaths of Tupac Shakur and Christopher, the notorious Big Wallace, still haunt hip-hop like unfinished business. Tupac was shot in Las Vegas in September 1996 and died 6 days later at just 25. Biggie was killed only 6 months after in Los Angeles during a drive-by shooting. Those losses came during the height of the East Coast-West Coast feud. It wasn't just music. It was pride, loyalty, and real tension. Diddy, as Big E's close friend and head of Bad Boy Records, stood firmly on the East Coast side. Over the years, Diddy's name kept surfacing in conversations about both deaths. He has always denied any involvement and publicly rejected the claims as nonsense. In interviews, he said those accusations don't deserve attention. Still, the recent docuseries Sean Combs, The Reckoning reignited old debates. Several individuals featured shared opinions, suggesting Diddy played a behind-scenes role. These remain allegations, not proven facts. Former Bad Boy co-founder Kirk Burrow claimed the tension between Diddy and Tupac didn't come out of nowhere. Early on, they moved in similar circles, but everything changed after the 1994 Quad Studios shooting. That night, Tupac was robbed and shot 5 times in a New York City studio lobby. He survived, but his trust was shattered. From that point on, Tupac openly questioned the loyalty of people around him. In a 1996 Vibe interview, Tupac was asked directly if he believed Diddy was involved. His answer was careful, but loaded. He said he had his own opinion and believed certain people.
This guy's life might be danger over here because people think that he has something to do with Pac. People think he has something to do with Biggie. And they right here in Brooklyn. You understand? It's right here in Brooklyn. And some of the people are still mad that he made making it a band walk to Brooklyn from, to get the cheesecake, and he's around the corner from the Cheesecake Factory. So, Junior's. So it might be some dumb so y'all need to get him out of here and ship him to Jersey because somebody gonna kill him over here. Those are good arguments, if you want to call it, but it's bullshit. He gonna get the same treatment no matter how much money he got.
Knew more than they admitted. Tupac also questioned inconsistencies in how the shooting was reported. He felt his experience was minimized and rewritten by the media. That frustration fueled his distrust and anger. The Quad Studio shooting was never solved. Gone Deal later claimed that Diddy already knew Tupac was going to be harmed that night. According to Gone, Diddy, Andre Harrell, and Jimmy Henchman were allegedly together earlier that day. Gone alleges that Jimmy Henchman warned Diddy that Tupac would be taught a lesson over an alleged money dispute. Gene claims Diddy stayed close, not intervene, but to observe what would unfold. He also alleges Diddy was keeping an eye on Biggie at the time because of business interests and publishing control. These are Gone Deal's claims, not established facts. Gone argues that Diddy's presence that night wasn't accidental. He believes Diddy chose not to warn Tupac and did not step in. Again, these remain accusations, not court-proven conclusions. Gene further claims that Kirk Burrow's statements align with this version of events. According to Gone, if money was involved, insiders like Kirk would know where it came from. None of these allegations have been proven in court, Diddy has consistently denied involvement in Tupac or Biggie's deaths. But the resurfacing of these stories shows how unresolved history continues to think.
Think Puffy was not shoot?
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew. You know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proved things that I can say that will back up my claim, but this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows. So every time he say it didn't happen, or that's the only thing that makes this become an issue to everybody. Because you seen what I said in the Vibe article. I basically bowed out and was going to go ahead about my life. The next issue, that wasn't even the next issue, because them cowards waited about 4 issues before they got their story together. 4 issues later, half of New Yorkers commenting on me getting shot. And before, they was all like, we didn't see nothing. In the first issue, we did, Vibe viewers. Nobody seen shit. The 4th issue, when they came back with a reply, everybody knew what I did. They knew what I said. I was acting. Who gets shot 5 times in acts? Oh, I didn't get shot 5 times in their vision. I only got shot once because they found the bullet. The police found it, but now they the cops. Now they doing detective work. They found the bullet. Oh, you found the bullet, huh? So what is this other shit in me then? What was the doctors talking about? What? Can you explain these other holes in me? How'd I get gunpowder all over me? That insulted my intelligence. So yes, I did say Thug Life was there. Yes, I bowed out, all of that. But when they said that, they breathed new life in.
Follow him. And now with Diddy behind bars, those old beliefs are louder than ever, true or not. Perception carries power, especially in places where reputation can be dangerous. This is why the footage matters. Not because it proves guilt, but because it shows how the past never really stays buried. In hip-hop, some stories don't die, they wait. Gene says if Diddy played any role, Kirk Burroughs would know where the money came from. According to Gene, Kirk once claimed Diddy paid people to drive to Vegas. Gene says he doesn't remember that part personally, but adds it's hard to hide $1 million. That kind of money leaves a trail. Gene recalls Eric Zitvon showing him and another associate check for $1 million. He says Zip showed the check, then walked away. Gene doesn't claim to know who received what. Only that money like that doesn't disappear. People may be gone, but paper trails remain. Nearly 2 years later, Tupac was killed in Las Vegas. That case stayed unsolved for decades, fueling speculation. In September 2023, Dwayne Keith D. Davis was arrested and charged with murder. Prosecutors say he played a key role. In July 2024, court filings revealed a 2009 police interview where Davis allegedly described his involvement and repeatedly mentioned Diddy, claiming Diddy ordered the hit. Davis has denied this and pleaded not guilty. A DOJ report also referenced earlier claims from informants alleging Diddy offered money to eliminate Tupac and Suge Knight. These remain allegations. Las Vegas police have stated Diddy was never considered a suspect. After Tupac's death, Gene says Diddy's team was warned about traveling west. Despite that, Diddy pushed forward with Biggie's L.A. trip. Kirk Burroughs later claimed Biggie didn't want to go to L.A. and was talked into it. Gene says Clark Kent later confirmed Biggie questioned why they were going out that night, saying plans came from Puffy and Drock. To Gene, that detail matters because Biggie wasn't supposed to be partying. He was supposed to be traveling. You feel me? Gene says Clark Kent wasn't just anybody. He was Biggie's DJ. So, if Clark's saying it, who's lying? Gene says the real problem is people can't accept the truth once they hear it. Not because it's fake, but because...
The interim of being there to spy on Big, Jimmy Henchman told him that they finna teach Pac a lesson. Because Pac had owed him some money. So that's why he was up in the studio and was coming to the studio. Pac owed him some money. He was going to work it off and get some money from doing a song with Lil Sean. And that's what that was about. But Pac was talking greasy to Jimmy Henchman, and Jimmy Henchman wasn't the type of dude that you talk greasy to. Allegedly. Unless you're 50 Cent.
So Diddy knew what was going to happen about it.
He knew Pac was about to deal well, yeah. He was there to see it. He was there to see it. He wasn't only that to see Big and them. When Jimmy Hitchman told him that, he was there to see what's going to happen to Pop. He was there for that. Because had he not been there for that, he would have went up there in the office. He would have went to the studio or the studio session with Big and them. He would have went to that studio session with Big and them. He knew what room Big and them was in. He didn't do that. He was there to see what was going to happen to Pop after Jimmy told him. And that's factual.
It sounds too wild to process, but it still happened. Gene breaks it down like this. There was no we that night. Big had his own security. Puff had his people. Gon and Kenny were there. In total, about 20 plus people in the entourage, and not a single one was armed. You don't roll into Cali like that, especially back then. And what still eats at Gene is this. He warned them. He asked for more security before they went out. He pushed the issue hard, and according to him, the answer was no. Puff allegedly said there wasn't money in the budget. That excuse still doesn't sit right with him. They should have had more security. Gene says, I asked, they refused. And Kirk Burroughs later backed that up, saying the same thing. No budget, no extra protection, no backup plan. And without Big, there was no budget at all. Later in the docu series, former LAPD Detective Greg Kading added another layer. He said over time his view of Diddy changed, not because of rumors, but because of behavior. Kading said Diddy wasn't cooperative after Tupac and Biggie were murdered, which raised red flags from a law enforcement perspective. Kading was careful with his words, saying accusations must be based on evidence, not speculation. Still,
Yeah, Kirk Burroughs, he also said that, he feels like, Diddy was behind Pac murder.
Yeah. If Diddy played a part in that stuff, like he said, Kirk know where the money came from. I'm going to say this. They tried to, if you talk about the Vegas trip and the whole 9 yards, Kirk said that he paid for people to drive out to Vegas. You know what I'm saying? He said he paid for people to drive out of Vegas. I was heavily with Bad Boy at that time. I don't remember that part of it. You understand? I don't remember that part of it. But if Kirk knew and he was paying for people to drive out to Vegas in the whole 9 yards, it's hard to hide $1 million, brother. You ain't going to cash that in the check cashing place. You signing that over to somebody. I said 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 times again. Eric Von Zip showed me and my man Boondang, a.k.a. my man Slick, a check for $1 million. We don't know, and everybody trying to say, lying, talking about half of it got paid, 500. I don't know. I know when I asked him about, we asked him, do we ask? No, we didn't ask him. I know when he showed us a check and he walked away after he showed us the check for the $1 million, you understand?
he said Diddy didn't act like someone trying to help solve the cases. Instead, he stayed distant, guarded, and unhelpful. That stood out. Kading suggested that if someone had exposure in one case, it could explain why they wouldn't cooperate in another. According to him, the two murders always felt connected, and cooperating in one could open doors nobody wanted open. Witnesses later said Biggie's shooter was.
I seen an interview that Puffy did with Fat Joe where he was talking about Biggie in his last moments in L.A. And he told Fat Joe that he didn't want to go to L.A. He actually wanted to go to London. But Biggie, he was the one that wanted to go to L.A. and he was the one that was pushing to go to L.A.
That's not true. My name is Kirk Burroughs. I ran Bad Boy Entertainment. I helped co-found it. I created the company with him. I raised from general manager to president. And at that time, I put all of those business plans together. And Biggie didn't want to go to LA, ended up going. What got him out there was a week ahead of time to ease him into the whole award show. He may not have wanted to go to London, but was talked into it. First time ever, a rapper of your stature getting this treatment. That would be something he would be interested in doing, but he was easily talked out of it by Sean so that they can make an appearance at an event in LA that Saturday night. A part of the posturing of not only did we come to the award show, not only am I recording my album out here, and Big is going to help me with some of the writing and maybe do something out here where me and him did this song in LA. I'm out on the town. And it was just too much.
Was a black man wearing a blue tuxedo with a bow tie. Decades later, no arrests, no charges. Both murders remain officially unsolved. Diddy has never been charged. But Gene says things are shifting. More connections are coming out. More voices are speaking up. And according to Kurt Burrows, the tension didn't start at Quad Studios. It was already there. Before Tupac ever walked into that building, trust was thin, egos were high, and rivalries were bubbling under the surface. Once Tupac was shot, everything exploded. From that moment on, Gene says nothing between those camps was ever the same again. When Pac came in that night, the vibe wasn't hostile at all. He was cool with Big, familiar with Little Sean. People like that. The whole plan was simple. Just come through Quad, make a record, have a good night in the studio. Biggie knew Little SH.
Our perceptions have changed slightly, gradually over time. Today, I look at Diddy with through a different lens than I might have 10, 15 years ago. There were obviously some early red flags, but it's a complicated thing because we have to be very careful about falsely accusing people or even, making accusations based on nothing more than speculation. And we just haven't seen all the evidence. So I prefer to kind of withhold judgment on some things. I can tell you regarding Diddy back when Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls were murdered. He wasn't exactly cooperative. He didn't do what you would assume a friend or, a manager, so to speak, would do. So from a law enforcement perspective, he was very unhelpful in an area where he ought to have been contributing towards getting some type of justice in those two murder cases. Mm. But as we found out in time, he was complicit in one of them, and which would make sense why maybe he didn't cooperate in the other, because the two were, they were just, we always understood that they were somehow interconnected. And so if you're going to cooperate or provide information on one and you're culpable in the other, one thing could lead back to the next. And that's where I think he understood his own vulnerability.
On everybody was there. All familiar faces. All industry people. Nothing fell off at first. Pac showed up and noticed people looking down from the window. His new friends were there. Then something happened in the elevator. Maybe it was meant to scare him. Maybe to send a message. Pac stood his ground, though. He wasn't backing down like that. But it didn't stop there. He ended up getting shot. The elevator went up, and when our people saw him, everybody was stunned. Pac was shocked, too. Shocked that we were shocked. In that moment, Pac believed we knew something.
They wasn't going out to no party, no clubs, and no hip-hop scene. They wasn't doing none of that, brother. But that one particular night they go out, and it was because of Puff and D-Rock. Clark Kent said that shit himself. I've been saying it for years, but everybody was saying, I'm capping. No. What do you call Clark Kent? Is he capping? He's a vice president of a record company. You understand what I'm saying? He was DJing for Big. Is he capping? All these people should smack themselves, brother. Because what happened is, when people hear the truth, they can't believe it. Why? They can't understand it. But it happened. We couldn't have done nothing because it was no we. It was no we out there. Big had a security, Paul offered, Reggie Bullock. Puff had me and Kenny. We was down 6 to 8 other men. And it's 23 people in the entourage. And none of them got no guns. You don't go Cali empty-handed. We couldn't have done nothing, man. People still want to know shit about them. They should have had better security. I asked them before we going to go out? Let's hire some more security. They refused to hire more security. They refused to hire more security. Kirk Burroughs said the same thing. They ain't have it in the budget. Not without Big, they don't have no budget. How about that?
In his mind, if he was in New York surrounded by East Coast rappers, somebody had to know what was coming. He felt like it had to be in the air. But Burroughs says that wasn't the truth at all. Still, Pac carried that feeling in his heart. And once that trust cracked, it never healed. After that, more things happened. He recovered, got back on his feet, then later faced serious legal trouble and went to jail. Once that happened, it felt like the East Coast became the worst place for him to be. To Pac, it looked like friends turned their backs on him. That's when Suge stepped in. Suge moved fast. He signed Pac at Clinton, reportedly on a napkin. Wendy Day carried the letter. She was deeply connected, a respected mediator across hip-hop, legendary in the game. She delivered the letter straight to Burroughs' office. The letter opened with West Side. That alone told the story. Rumors were already floating that Suge had packed, and the streets were right. Pac was going west when he came home, and he had a serious issue with the East, especially with Puffy and Biggie. Burroughs says Pac made it clear this wasn't just music anymore.
Coming in, he was friendly with Big. He saw Little Sean, people like that. They wanted him to come and do a record. That was what was set up at Quad. Biggie knowing Little Sean, they were all there, Siege, all of them. It was just going to be a fun night at the studio. Pac showed up. He saw them looking down from the window. His new friends were there. An incident happened in the elevator. It might have been a scary thing, like just to send a message. Tupac standing his own ground, just didn't leave it at that. He ended up getting hit, getting shot. The elevator went up. Our people were shocked to see him in that state. He was shocked to see our people looking at him shocked. He thought that they knew something about it. He thought if he was in New York and he was with all the rappers from the East, they must have known what was going to happen. It had to be in the wind. And situations aren't laid out like that. And it was the furthest thing from the truth, but he held that to his heart. And then he went away. A few other things happened, got better, got repaired, went away, went to jail on a rape charge. Once that came down on him, it looked as if the East Coast must have been the worst thing and the worst place for him to have come to. And it looks as if the friends that he had just turned their backs on him. Suge stepped in. Suge stepped in. And when Suge stepped in, he signed him. He signed him to a napkin at Clinton. And that letter that he sent through Wendy Day, she was definitely a person that was connected and a mediator between most everyone in the hip hop game and had been for a minute. Legendary person. She delivered the letter to my office. It started with West Side Up. So it gave an indication of rumblings that we heard in the street with him being shined by Suge was definitely true. He's going to go west when he comes back, and he has an issue with us.
Letter wasn't confused. It wasn't emotional rambling. It was cold, direct, and firm. What happened at Quad Studios changed everything forever. Burroughs explains Wendy Day's importance, too. She helped artists secure fair deals, handled royalties, built bridges in the industry. When Burroughs entered the business, she was someone he respected and trusted. During Pac's East Coast crisis, when he visited him at Clinton, Pac wrote the letter himself and asked her to bring it to Burroughs, so the message would be clear. The letter said, West Side up, and reflected what the streets were already whispering. Pac believed what happened to him in New York proved the East Coast, especially powerful figures, should have protected him or warned him. From his perspective, that didn't happen. And from that moment on, the divide became permanent. What happened after Quad wasn't as simple as geography. Things weren't laid out clean like East versus West on a map. A lot of people ended up catching blame for things they had nothing to do with. Pac took it personally. He went west and slowly became the loudest voice against the East. That's when he started going at Biggie publicly. From Burroughs' perspective, that was only one layer of the beef. Beneath that, there was another level happening in the streets. Real tension, real lines being drawn between East and West. That energy fed the music, and the music fed the conflict. Mouthpieces started firing back and forth, and by then the feud had a life of its own. Long before the violence shocked the world, it was already spiraling. But Chopper sees it very differently. He believes Diddy was almost certainly behind Tupac's death, and says the hatred was real, not competitive. Not industry rivalry, personal. He remembers how Diddy reacted any time Pac's name came up. Just mentioning Tupac would set him off. Chopper says one time Diddy asked who he grew up listening to. He said Tupac instead of Biggie. Diddy didn't speak to him for days. According to Chopper, everything.
By the name of Wendy Day, very important woman in the hip hop world. I think she helped Baby and those guys with Cash Money label, setting that up. She's very influential and instrumental in a lot of success. When I started in the music business, I reached out to her. She had a company called Rap Coalition. She went back and helped rappers from a previous generation get their money straight, their royalties. With that being said, I was like, she's someone I want to know. In knowing her, I had the good fortune of when she was dealing with Tupac during his crises on the East Coast, she went to visit him at Clinton. He wrote a letter, drafted it so that she can bring it to me at the office so that I could know and be able to relate to Sean where we were with him. And the letter, if I remember, it said, West Side up. And what we had heard was rumblings that Suge came and signed him on a napkin to a contract, and he was going to go west. And all the stuff that happened to him on the East that made it look like people on the East, King or the biggest rappers on the East, or people that he knew should have warned him or protected him against what had happened. And it just is not geographically laid out like that. And a lot of people caught some blame for things that they had nothing to do with. And he took offense, went west, and that started him as a mouthpiece against the East, all right, going at Biggie. And I think it's more than, that's one level of the beef. Then I think there's another level of things that were going on in the streets where things happen in the dividing line between East and West that caused a big rift that led to mouthpieces going at each other.
Had to center around Biggie. You couldn't even compare them. He says Diddy made people recite Biggie's lyrics word for word the entire song over and over. And Chopper felt the energy wasn't coming from Biggie himself, but from Diddy. That's why he says, looking back, the hate felt deep, way deeper than music. Then Chopper drops what he believes is the real reason Diddy is still locked up. Not the civil lawsuits, not the allegations. He believes authorities are holding Diddy to connect him directly to the Kef D situation tied to Tupac's murder. In his view, the other cases won't stick. Accusations aren't evidence. He believes the feds are aiming for one thing only, tying Diddy to Kef D. That's the lock. That's the anchor. Everything else gets negotiated or pleaded down. But that case, that's different.
The comment you made about how when you would bring up Pac name around Diddy, he'll get mad.
Yes. Yes. He hated every bit of it. I remember one time, he was like, who did you grow up listening to? I'm like, Tupac. I ain't mentioned Biggie. That nigga ain't even talk to me for like 4 fucking days after that. Everything with Pac, Like, you couldn't say Pop was anything better than Biggie. You can't put them in the same realm or nothing. It was all about Biggie. Nick, I ain't know no fucking, it was all a dream whole song. I knew a couple words, the first verse maybe, but he made us recite the whole fucking thing. I guess, I don't know. He made us recite that whole fucking thing. And I don't think that Biggie would have gave a if a nigga would have killed about reciting his whole shit. You dig? Like, cause I grew up listening to Biggie too, you know? And I just felt Pot different.
Chopper believes that it was just civil issues. Diddy would already be out on house arrest doing church videos, playing clean image. That's not what this is about. He thinks they're waiting, building, making sure Diddy can't walk. He points out that Vegas usually allows bail even with restrictions. The fact Kef D wasn't released tells him everything. In his words, the feds are playing a different game now. Meanwhile, 50 Cent is allegedly leaking footage to outlets like TMZ. And if Gon Deal is right, retaliation is coming. He says Diddy's camp may try to dig into 50's personal life, old relationships, baby mothers, anything to flip the narrative. The same playbook used on others. But Gene believes 50 is ready. He says you don't move like this unless your house is in order. If you live in a glass house,
These situation, I think the real reason why they ain't gonna let Puffy out is because they trying to connect that Kiefer D situation with Puffy. That's what I really think it is. Because if it came down to some foolishness and all that, there are buku trumped up charges they couldn't prove. I don't think they got no evidence. I think they trying to keep him in there to lock in that Kiefer D. You hear me? That Kiefer D situation with Puff. I think that's the only reason why he's still in jail right now. They know Puff is not a dangerous person on the outside. They know if they let him out right now, he's going to be on house arrest. He's going to be a good boy. He f around and do all church videos and whatever. They know that already. That's not what they aiming for. They don't care about none of that. What they care about is they trying to connect Kiefer D with Biggie. I mean, with Tupac and Diddy. I'm telling you, that's what I feel. I never thought I would have said that, but I'm an intelligent man, bruh. And ain't no other way they gonna keep you in there of, yeah, Diddy did this to me. Oh, Diddy did that to me. I'm suing him. Oh, we got enough evidence to. No, you don't. That's accusations. That's not actual factual, brother. You dig? So I feel like the actual factual thing that they really trying to aim for is the key for D. That's the only thing that they can really lock him in with. All the rest of that shit gonna get chumped down when it come down to it. Diddy gonna plead, and that shit be over with. What they going? That rabbit in the hole is gonna be that kid for D situation. I'm telling, mark my words. Watch. That's why they ain't gonna let him out. They would have let Kid for D out on that bail. Vegas got a little thing. They'll let you out on bail, but they got little restrictions of how you can get out. You dig? So they gonna make sure your ass can't get out of jail. Trust me. So that's the only way I see that. Because the feds play a different game.
Now, the thing is, 50's allegedly
Don't throw stones, and Gene thinks 50 already counted the cost. As for the talk about Diddy suing Netflix for $1 billion, Gene calls it noise. No filings, no paperwork, no cease and desist. If there was a real case, the documentary would already be pulled. Until then, it's just headlines. So, now the question hangs in the air. Do you think Diddy will ever be convicted for Tupac's murder? Let us know what you think in the comments.